All right, it's 10 o'clock on the dot. Well, my computer says 10. It's 11 a.m. Arizona time. It's noon Central time, 10 a.m. California time. I have this weird problem of I love cities that are on the border of time. In Page, there's we don't do daylight savings time, but Utah does, and then the reservation does. And so, it's just confusing like that. But anyways, all right. I think everyone's on. If not, they can catch the replay and see what we missed at the beginning. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining me today. Back in my office. Um, yeah, I'm so excited to be here. This weekend, Sunday, Monday is Christmas. Wow, that flew by. Here we are, starting the new year already. So excited. Big things for 2024. So hope you've got some big fun plans too. Anyways, this week in the Spark program, which is creating your reality life and owning all the roles of the production to create this show or really the reality that you dream of in your head if you had your highest self, your purpose, your full alignment, your true authentic self, that getting that life to come to fruition. So we are talking about becoming the editor this week and our habits. And week one, we began talking about being the writer and you're the thoughts and how you control each series and each new chapter of the life. And then week two was becoming the director. And then getting all the moving parts starting to go, and that was your thoughts, or yeah, sorry. Thoughts are first, that's the writer. Words are the director. The director speaks, right? And directs everyone what to do and where to go, when to stop, when to start. And then last week we talked about becoming the producer and owning your habits and how your thoughts and words really create your habits or your actions. And if your thoughts, words, and actions don't align, that's when you're gonna be off the path of that authentic self, that true self, that deep, passionate, aligned self that we're all trying to, you know, become. Like that we were here to, that what our ultimate purpose of why we were put here on earth. And so let's see, actions. We talked about responsibility, accountability, and support. So taking accountability for our life, taking responsibility for our life, and then knowing where to look for support so that we can move forward and not just stay stuck at the level that we're at. We began talking about consistency paired with trial and error to start creating data and points of reference for you to look back on. You can't just do something once. There's nothing to compare it to. If you do it twice, three, four times, then you can start to say this worked, this didn't work. And then we finished up the call with practice, patience, pattern. And I think it was review and revisit. So, and that kind of leads us into habits today and becoming the editor. And so, the editor goes back and reviews all the tape and compiles everything to create this show that is shown out into the world, right? And so we don't have to share everything, all parts of our lives, but it's the editor's job really to start noticing habits too. And he's a good one to give feedback to the characters, the producer, and the director, where things can, if he's noticing things in the data or trends, the editor would be the one to pick up on those. So I think that this review our habits and revisit them, like reviewing or revisiting the pattern and the practice of where can we adjust the practice to create a different pattern if we want a different outcome. If we don't change anything in the thoughts, words, and actions, the result will continue to be the same. That's the definition of insanity, right? And so Sorry, sometimes my mouth goes faster than my brain, and I'm like, definition of insanity. Oh yeah, the practice, patience creates pattern, right? And so the editor is reviewing the patterns, and then he can help revisit where the practice needs to change to change the habit. Okay. Like I know I sound like a broken record, but that's it. It's a cycle. It has to keep going. You can't just think about something all the time, speak about something all the time, not put it into action, or you can't just do action that doesn't align with what you're speaking and thinking. It won't work. You won't be able to get to the loop. And then you have to review your thoughts, words, and actions and see, did you get the outcome you wanted? And if not, you have to change those so they can get a different outcome. All right. So habits where you really want to focus on meeting your future self and like where you are now. Obviously, one, you're alive and you're here and you made it. So congratulations. It's a big deal. And sometimes we're so caught up in the future and the past that we don't take a moment to just stop and breathe, appreciate what we've been through so far and how far we've come on our journey already. So then, I feel like for me now at this point, like at 39, most of the things that I need to change, like in my daily habits, are things that I learned in childhood, whether it was trauma or just growing up from toxic relationships that no longer serve me now as an adult. Those behaviors are not behaviors that my future self does. And so I'm working through processing, learning, recognizing the self-awareness. What are the behaviors? Taking accountability for the behaviors, then taking responsibility and learning how to change them. What is the root cause of the behavior? Are you find yourself eating a whole bag of cookies all of a sudden because you weren't paying attention, but it's really because you're stressed out and you maybe didn't eat enough earlier. Like there's generally a breadcrumb trail that led you to the behavior that you're trying to change, and you have to go back far enough to see where you have to basically pivot and go. It's like driving. When you're driving down the road, there's two turns. You can turn right, you can turn left. Turn right, keep going. It's not the right way. Okay, well, you have to turn around and then you have to go back and then you have to keep going the other way to get going in the right direction, right? So it's just having that awareness to know, okay, this wasn't necessarily the right direction. I just got to turn around and go back. But you have to go figure out where you got to go back to in the process. So meeting your future self, evaluating your habits, and I think the important key here is that you have to be able to look backwards into the past and evaluate where those habits were formed and why they were formed. Um, like I said, most of our behaviors are habits that generally no longer serve us as we get older, were formed in childhood to help us develop, and a lot of those were based on the adult relationships around us, and we didn't have any control over them. We had nothing we could do. As a child, it's not your responsibility to parent a parent. Um, so we have to look back. We have to say, okay, like alcohol, for example, if you're drinking a lot, you're not sure why or where or what's happening. Um, Generally, like say you come home and you drink after a stressful day of work. Like, so you're using alcohol to cope, right? Well, what are you coping with? The stress. Well, what stress? Why are you stressed? Is it something that's going on at work? Is it the load? Are you just carrying too much stuff? Are you like, do you have 100 things on your to-do list, but you only have an hour to do those 100 things? Like that's stress, people. Like that definitely can weigh you down. Um, so understanding where that you can free up that brain space and get out of those cycles. Um, but you have to look at the behaviors. Generally, you have to look at your parents or the adults that raised you and evaluate the behavior, like what behavior of theirs kind of led you to have that survival behavior now, or as a child that you're maybe trying to fix now. Like people pleasing or codependency, those type of things. Um, and you have to It's really hard because most people can't view their parent as like a separate person in terms of like kind of a stranger on the street, for example. Like we know our parents pretty intimately compared to other people. And so it's often difficult for us to look at them as like a third eye and like viewing their behavior separate from them in terms of okay, they were doing this because that was the best that they knew at the time, because that's all they knew because of their situation, their behaviors. And then you can start to look at how you can change your behavior. But it's kind of a lot of work, and you have to like give your parents grace and empathy, give yourself grace and empathy, to start to look at how to break down the survival behaviors. And so meeting your future self is really allowing yourself to go through the process of connecting with yourself, removing toxic relationships out of your life, and moving forward um, as your future self, living the life that you like, you know, in your head that you're destined to live, that you're here, your sole purpose, like life that you're here on earth for. Um, it just gets like kind of brainwashed out of us as we go through school and we get older and we go corporate job, those different things. So I think one really big key to meeting your future self is you have to learn how to turn off autopilot. And autopilot is the habits that just go without you thinking about it. So if you stop for a second and you look at the clock and you think of all the things you've already done today. So many things were done on autopilot. So you probably don't even remember putting your shoes on. Look at your feet for a second. Do you have socks on? Do you have socks and shoes on? Do you just have sandals? The socks, for example. Do you put a left sock on first or a right sock on first? Do you put a left sock on and a left shoe on? Or do you put a left sock and a right sock and a left shoe and a right shoe? Or do you put a left sock and a right sock and a right shoe and a left shoe? Those are all habits. And I know it sounds super stupid when I just sit there and give you like, that's just 3 examples. You literally could go, like, we could keep going until we had all of the, what is it? 2 to the 4. That would be the number of combinations we could have. Um, don't ask me to do math this early on a Friday. But like you get the gist of it. There's multiple ways to do everything and end up with the same result. So we don't want to like we don't ever want to tell someone that their way is not right. If that's what they're feeling called to do, like that's the right way for them. So we just if we can guide them and say, hey, try this or help them, that's lovely. But we are our own, like everything we have is within us. Everything you need is within you. You have all of the information you need to get to the future self, the highest self, the purpose self. But you got to turn off autopilot of those behaviors that are not behaviors your future self continues to do. The faster you can crack behaviors off that no longer serve you, like make a stop doing list instead of a to-do list. Seriously, try it. Stop doing. I think it's actually easier than a to-do list because once you stop doing something and you cross it off the list, it's done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It doesn't take up any brain space. It doesn't have any control over you. Has no power because you don't have to give it any power. We're going to come back to this at the end when we talk about letting go. So, again, let's go back to the shoe example for a second. 1 sock, 2 sock, shoe, whatever your pattern is. Think about it tomorrow when you put your shoes on, or even when you take your shoes off later today. You probably have a habit. You do the same thing every day. You just don't recognize it. So the biggest stop is like being able to stop and say, whoa, there's a pattern right there. And then focusing on trying to change it. It's kind of like doing yoga. Yesterday, it was the winter solstice. So we did 108 sun salutations. If you don't know, a sun salutation is kind of like a yoga burpee, is like how I like to explain it. Um, and 108 is kind of a lot. It's full. It's a good workout. It took us like over 30 minutes to do the full 108. Um, but you keep, oh my gosh, I lost my trace. Turn off autopilot. So I know what I was gonna say. The instructor that I go to his classes, he normally, when we're doing sun salutations, he'll say left foot or right foot, like forward or back. And because he's counting, because we were doing so many, he didn't cue the foot forward or back. And so I know that part of the key of a successful yoga workout every day for me is that you balance. You do what you do on one side, you also do on the other side of your body so that you have the same stretches and workouts on both sides. If you um if you don't do that, you'll have one side stretched and your other side not stretched. So because he wasn't giving the foot cues, I had to keep reminding myself. I started out trying to do left, right, but there's also like a back and a forward and a back and a forward, and it can get confusing. So I would then, if I forgot, like I would go and I would have a row of like 10 left foot backs. I would just remind myself to do like a few right foot backs. So, but basically, between that and not missing what step I was on, those were like what I had to focus on. I had to focus on making sure that I wasn't doing the same leg over and over and over and over the same time for 108 sun salutations, or my body today would be like completely wrecked and sore as shit because my hips would be out of whack. One side would have been really stretched from doing the back and the forward the same, and then the other side is the one that, so um, yeah, I mean, it's a really good example of how if you stay on autopilot with your habits, you can quickly throw yourself out of balance if you're not balanced in the habit basically from the get-go. Um, and then, we get going in our routine, life starts to throw things at us and we get distracted, and then our brain, we don't know which set of the sun salutation we're on. So you just have to focus, listen to the voice of the instructor, bring back your breathing, and get back into the pattern. And then once you get back into the pattern, again, thinking about I'm going left foot back, right foot forward, left foot forward. And then it does a switch. You're going left foot forward, your right foot forward. Um, so that's, turning off autopilot. Sometimes if we just let our body is going to naturally do what it knows as a pattern. And to make a new habit stick or to undo a habit, it takes that practice, patience, and pattern of the new habit or the lack of a new habit, for a consecutive amount of time for your body to recognize this is our new habit, this is our new pattern. We don't do that anymore. Um, so yeah, as you're turning off autopilot, you're going to start noticing the data and the patterns that your habits are creating. And this is where you have to review the data and the patterns, and then look at where you can revisit the practice and how it's going on a daily basis to make change, right? So the actions are what generate the data, but the habits are basically the data, like having multiple. We did this for 5 days. Now we do this again for 5 days. Like I said last time, do anything for 90 days. So that it can be a routine. It can be something that you can say, well, I went through a holiday. I went through, a full 3 menstrual cycles. I went through one whole season of like a season, like spring or summer or fall. Um, you can adjust food. Like if you just try, it's like elimination diets and things like that. I know as you try food back, you don't want to do it for a certain amount of time or think like you don't want to do too much too quickly. So it's all about balance, spreading it out, or like knowing where you need, how many times you got to do something to have the data, and putting the consistency into play. Practice, patience, pattern. having practice, doing it regularly, having patience, and then you'll start to see a pattern, consistency. Where are we at on time right now? Let's see. Oh, 10:20. Okay, good. So I did kind of like I hit on the data and recognizing the patterns a little bit last week. I don't know what else I really have to add on that. Um, if you don't have, you also have to be patient enough to have the patterns and the data before you start tweaking the practice. So, like feedback, for example, let's say you're coaching people and you ask your clients for feedback and one client gives you feedback. Well, that's not necessarily the consensus of all of your clients. So make sure that you're getting a wide range of feedback. So ask, 10, 20, 30 people to deliver you feedback and then take a sampling. So if you ask for 20 people's feedback and you get 10 people to give you feedback, whatever the underlying themes that they've given you, that the majority, so 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, or 10 out of 10 give you as feedback, that's where then you want to refine the practice and make changes to what you're doing. Not that the one person's feedback is not valid, but you don't want to necessarily go changing everything just based on one person's feedback, because everyone gets activated at different times and everyone has implementation and strategy processes that they're working on that all integrate in different ways and processes. So we can't necessarily just say one person's ideas or opinions are enough to like completely change everything that we're doing, because that can lead to people pleasing, especially if every single time someone gives you feedback you're going and changing everything. So stick to your gut. If you know in deep down you feel called to like put something out, it's gonna work, or you like just really have this calling to do it, then do it, put it out there. Maybe it won't work right now, maybe it won't work tomorrow, maybe it just needs different marketing, there's all sorts of factors. Until you have consistency, show up, practice, and create the data, you can't really start to analyze it. So, quick deep breath. And we're going to wrap up with letting go. And I had something. Oh, also, you kind of wanted to touch on automate, delegate, and eliminate in this section. So if you're the editor and you're, reviewing a lot of tape, like if you've had to edit your reels or anything like that, you know that you have to like listen to audio, you have to listen to video, you end up watching a lot of your stuff or your content probably multiple times before it actually gets posted. And so there's different levels of letting go that like you have to take and learn in your life. um for you to be the most productive. Like, if something doesn't align with your greater power and your soul purpose, then you need to let it go. Like, it's not meant for you. It's not meant for you to and there's going to be a lot of distractions and things that will try to pull you off of your path and your soul purpose, because that's just how life works. But learning how to let go of the things that don't serve you is a game changer. And so I wanted to hit on the automate, eliminate, and delegate, and that's not mine. I think I first heard it from Gary Vee, and I'm sure he heard it from somebody else. I don't know, but I love it because it's easy. It's only three things. And if you think about it, about letting go, it's a great way to take some pressure off of yourself in terms of some of the stresses in life. Goes back, thinking about support too. Like, you need to be able to ask support for support. It's okay. So automate, delegate, and eliminate. And how this works in letting go is that anything that you must do that you don't love to do, that you have the opportunity to automate, you should do that. It will save you time, help you generate more money. Time and energy and money, the power, they're all energy. They flow back and forth. And so when you might have to pay for something that can help you automate, maybe uh like email service or something, But on the flip side, the time you save, or like say by automating your email marketing, you then get however many X clients extra that you weren't getting before a month, and that essentially pays for the automation service tenfold, right? Like you see how it works. So we can't be afraid to pay for something in automation that will allow us to go up to a higher level and give us more time freedom or more productivity on our end. Or like generate more sales, help us work less but do more, right? So automate wherever possible. Like your regular routine bills like electricity and water and those things, those are great to automate. Just make sure that you're checking them on a regular basis, doing your accounting monthly. But again, anything that you can automate that's not that's not part of your flow, like your creative flow, your genius flow, helping others flow, serving others flow. Automate that shit. And then delegate. Whatever has to be done in your business that you can't automate and you don't want to fucking do, delegate that shit. Delegate that shit. Delegate that shit. So, if you are to the capacity where you can't hold any more on your plate and to grow to the next level or get more time freedom or more productivity freedom or more creative freedom, by taking a few things off of your plate, it is time to delegate. It is time to hire a new team member. Again, seek support, okay? Don't let everything crumble because we didn't seek support. And then eliminate, letting go, eliminate. Eliminate as much as possible that's not serving you. Make that stop list. Eliminate. What do you need to stop doing that your future self doesn't do anymore in their lives? So that's just as much of a quantum leap. Stopping something that you do now that your future self doesn't do, that's a quantum leap towards your future self. So, doesn't always have to be like these full-on shifts and identity changes in terms of whatever like might be really crazy for you. Obviously quitting drinking or quitting smoking cigarettes or quitting smoking weed or quitting prescription drugs or like any sort of behavior that you feel is currently self-destructive or not aligned with your highest self. Those are behaviors and habits that we want to work on eliminating and letting go, and those allow us to get to the next level and one step closer to our future selves. Fucking right, it does. All right. So it's 10:28. I don't see any questions. Let me double check the chat. And the little note I made at the bottom of this flyer was plan more, edit less. And I think there has to be a balance there. It's not about the control necessarily, it's about the plan. So the universe doesn't like wishy-washy. The universe likes to know exactly what you want, exactly what your plan is, and exactly where you'd like to go so that it can help rearrange and deliver that for you, whether it's at the scale that you dream of or way beyond what you've ever imagined. But if you're just kind of wishy-washy and just putting it out there, you're really going to be going with the flow, but you're going to feel kind of like you're getting thrown all over the rapids. Where if you plan so that you have your raft and everything that you need to get through the rapids, you can edit less on the back end. Really goes into the practice, patience, and pattern. Also, the more you practice, the more you learn your lines, like we talked about last time, the less editing that needs to be done on the editing side, watching the tapes, cutting, splicing, removing, taking things out. So plan more for where you kind of want to go. That way it makes it easier to say no to the things that are not aligned with you. And then you can edit less, plan more, edit less. We're going to end on that note. Thank you all for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Friday 12/29. It'll be the last installment. And I hope you have a Merry Christmas. Thanks so much. Love you all. Bye.